Okay. Hi everyone, this is Brooke McMahon speaking. The topic for my investigation and research is the impact of reciprocal teaching on improving students' inferencing comprehension skills. I'm using an action learning intervention with 4 Year 4 students as they are good readers in terms of their fluency and literal comprehension. My aim is to use reciprocal teaching strategies to develop their skills from literal to inferential comprehension. A learning I gained from the readings, particularly Kipsel 2008 and Perfetti, Landy and Oakley 2004, was the different types of inferences that can be developed from literal inference, gained from giving information in a text to higher order gap filling, or global inference, which connects background knowledge and experience to the text. Mazzano 2008 also talked about different inference types. One being default inference, which are the automatic assumptions students make during prediction, and reasoned inference, which is a conclusion made based on available information from text and life. The learning will help me assess students' inferencing during the action learning. And a phrase I came across and liked was Mazzano's elaborative interrogation, which refers to questions I can ask my students to help them understand their thinking around the inferences they make. A paper I found interesting in the research was by Brown, 2008, that described transactional strategies instruction, known as the TSI approach, which just resembles the elements of reciprocal teaching, predicting, clarifying and summarizing. The literature I reviewed on reciprocal teaching was all situated in small group settings, with only McAllen's reading indicating a possibility of this being a whole class strategy. My thinking is that as collaboration, discussion, and dialogue are key strategies within reciprocal teaching, it is probably best situated in the small groups where teachers can scaffold and use questions to prompt higher order thinking for individual students. The reading on reciprocal teaching emphasised explicit teaching through modelling and scaffolding, and the use of teacher think alouds to support students' understanding and application of the forward thinking strategies, predicting, clarifying, questioning and summarising through the gradual release of responsibility model. Lastly, the reciprocal teaching readings all evidence that this instructional practice improves reading comprehension and higher order thinking skills. However, direct improvement in inferencing skills from reciprocal teaching was only evidenced in the Rosenberger research, and he included explicit teaching of inference as well as the 4 reciprocal teaching strategies in his research. My research indicates much of the qualitative research included additional components of the 4 reciprocal teaching strategies, including visualizing by Brown, Mazzano doing inferencing, Rosenberger doing inferencing too, and Mayer mentions the orientating, connecting and giving feedback, and with Rosenberger finally the analysis, evaluate and create. So yeah.
Okay, so Brooke, elaborative interrogation is not a term that I've come across as yet. What are the types of questions used for elaborative interrogation?
Mazzano refers to the 4 types of questions that teachers or students can ask as what is your inference? What information did you use to make the inference? How good was your thinking? And lastly, do you need to change your thinking? So following the teacher posing these questions, it is important for the teacher to interact with the students as they discuss their thinking and reasoning. So.
Awesome, thank you.
And Brooke, what was an aspect of the readings that you found really helpful so far in your intervention?
I realised the importance of teacher questioning and using open-ended questions to make sure my questions are not leading questions, and that the questions encourage the children to think about their thinking. Also, I learned about the importance of student dialogue, where they learn from each other and support each other's learning. So I need to be careful that I don't overpower the conversation during the intervention.
Yeah, and that's something that's really hard to do.
Yeah, I have found it so far.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
Rob.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, hello, this is Sharon McDonald. For my research topic, I'll be looking at how reciprocal teaching strategies can help students develop inferential level comprehension. I first came across reciprocal teaching whilst completing second year prac, and it is something that has intrigued me ever since. The students that I were observing were in a year 4-5 class and had already received explicit instructions on how to use the 4 strategies of questioning, clarifying, summarising and predicting. And with the use of prompt cards, these students were really committed to their roles. They engaged in meaningful conversations about the text and were able to scaffold each other's learning in a really positive way. The literature that I have read so far has indicated that reciprocal teaching strategies has had a positive impact on improving students' reading comprehension, as well as help students to develop self-monitoring skills. In one article that I read, the author acknowledges that reading comprehension in longer texts was likely to be more difficult for struggling readers, as they may not be able to understand the text as a whole piece of writing. In this instance, the use of reciprocal teaching strategies and think alouds may help students to understand what they are reading. Several of the resources discuss the importance of teachers explicitly modelling how each role of reciprocal teaching is used. The idea is for teachers to use the gradual release of responsibility model. The students that I'll be working with for my intervention have had experience with literature circles. So this is a very similar approach to reciprocal teaching. However, the roles differ slightly. So it will be interesting to see if the small changes to their reading roles improves their inferential comprehension skills. Several authors agree that the use of reciprocal teaching and read aloud should be used to facilitate critical questions and deeper thinking about the text, although one author did suggest that graphic organisers could also be useful for students who struggle with reading. Whilst there is limited research about how reciprocal teaching can help students to specifically develop inferential level comprehension, using visualisation strategies in some cases could be beneficial to students who struggle with their reading. Overall, the articles that I have read were quite useful and they will help me to guide my future research project. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Shannon. Yeah, you mentioned helping students develop self-monitoring skills. How does the small group nature of reciprocal reading impact the educator's ability to assess each student's self-monitoring explicitly? Would you endorse formative or summative assessment of self-monitoring as well?
Thanks, Travis. Students are able to use things like sticky notes, graphic organisers, notebooks, etc. to record the information that they're discussing during their reciprocal reading sessions. That way teachers are able to then use the data they collect to assess whether students are on task and that they're meeting their expected outcomes. Because self-monitoring is a flexible strategy, it can be used in many different situations, including reciprocal teaching. And as long as the students have been explicitly taught self-monitoring techniques, it's a strategy that works really well in small group situations. In terms of summative or formative assessment, I think both are needed to assess self-monitoring skills. While summative assessment provides evidence of content knowledge, it's also important for students to receive ongoing feedback as they are learning the content.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's great, Shaz.
Hi Shaz, it's Brooke speaking. I was just wondering, what is your understanding of visualization strategies that would be effective for inference learning within reciprocal teaching lessons, and were there any examples mentioned in the Rosenberger reading?
Great question, Brooke, thank you. So we've had some experience in the classroom using visualization strategy RIDER, which stands for read, imagine, describe, evaluate, and then either repeat or read on. This strategy is used with students who may have learning difficulties and also for younger students as well. So images can be used to support the text, which then helps students to understand what they're reading. This strategy can be used with reciprocal teaching strategies and also to help students with other levels of comprehension. An article by Takala mentioned the use of images, and also Rosenberger did specifically mention the successful use of visualizing strategy particularly by the Miami-Dade County Public School, where they implemented that as a program. So, yeah.
Thanks, that's very interesting to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Brooke.
All right, guys, it's Jo speaking now. The focus of my study is inferential comprehension, and in particular the use of keywords and questioning using a prompt fading technique. The student which I've begun working with is on the autism spectrum, so as the focus of the area, like the focus of my investigation is literacy, I chose just to touch briefly on the student's autism. So I'm focusing mainly on the literacy, but I have included one source regarding autism and reading comprehension in my literature review. So throughout my research, I've found a few themes which keep cropping up. Most resources agree on the importance of comprehension, obviously, and many stated that it's the ultimate goal. It's essential for reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Many of the articles I've found also focus on the importance of questioning and keywords, and that's due to the parameters of my search in relation to my questions. However, I've also found that many authors advocated for the use of multiple strategies in the classroom when approaching the teaching and learning of comprehension, and this is to provide a balanced approach to cater to a diverse learning population and just to promote understanding. So a number of texts also discuss the importance of graphic organisers, which I noticed a few of you guys have talked about as well, such as like story maps, diagrams, charts, also coupled with the instruction of text-specific strategies. And this is to help students summarise the text and analyse the structure of it and stuff like that. And so this is an interesting idea, and it's something that I'd like to explore more, but I'm just choosing to focus still just on the questioning and keywords, as I don't want to try and cover too many things and not do anything in depth. So another of the interesting things I found is prompt fading, which is a key element of my main question. I wasn't familiar with this technique before, but I found that it's similar to slowly removing scaffolding, and prompts can be faded either in intrusiveness, proximity, or delay. I found this is actually a strategy which is widely used when working with students on the autism spectrum, so I'm excited to use this with my students. But yeah, basically overall the literature has been interesting and beneficial, and it's got a number of key themes. So yeah.
Awesome. So Jo, Sharon, you made a note that the child you're working with has autism. So why did you choose to only briefly touch on this issue?
Yeah, I wasn't super sure where to go in the beginning, and I did run it past Val as well, but because we're focusing mainly on the literacy, I've chosen just to focus on the literacy aspect. I did a quick pre-assessment with the student. I got him to read to me, and I asked a few questions about the text and stuff like that, and I found that inferential comprehension was something that he struggled with, so that was my focus. And so I did decide to get one text, and that's actually quite a big text. It's a whole book of strategies on autism and comprehension and things that they could struggle with and stuff like that. So that's been really interesting. And trying to keep him engaged, because he is homeschooled, and his mum has mentioned that she does struggle to get him to do literacy work in particular.
I think that's every child.
Yeah, yes.
Thanks, Jo.
No worries.
Hi, Jo. It's Travis. I'm also using a prompt fading technique for the TWA strategy that I'll mention shortly. Can you elaborate more on the prompt fading and how it can be used?
Yeah. So when I looked it up first, it does seem to be more used with physical skills from what I've found. Like it is used a lot with students with autism, but it can be used with more academic stuff as well. And when you can actually fade in or out the prompt, so you can kind of make it stronger or weaker, but you can fade either by intrusiveness. The intrusiveness is mainly like physical to vocal. So if you're fading it, you know, you might start with a physical prompt. And with me, when I was starting with the student, I'm actually pointing to the keywords and helping him highlight them. So that's quite physical and stuff. Then just do a gestural kind of, you know, in this whole sentence, what keywords can you find kind of thing. And then just to a vocal, so trying to get him to do it all himself. And then with proximity, yeah, again, it's kind of, that's near to far, which I assume is more for physical skills. And then with delay is kind of waiting how long, so giving them that think time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've tried originally. I've been kind of getting in there straight away as he's learning what keywords are and stuff like that, and then hopefully fading it out to, you know, something that he can do himself.
Yeah, cool. Excellent, that's great. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Travis, and I've chosen to use action research based on a qualitative method of investigation to discover how the use of self-questioning can improve comprehension at the inferential and early evaluative level. I'm working with a single year 3 student. He's capable of some inferential reasoning, but he was unable to locate it within the text specifically. So he is aware of some cognitive strategies for oral reading, but I felt that he would benefit from explicit instruction of comprehension strategies throughout the reading process. Much of the research that I came across indicated the positive impact of self-questioning on comprehension. Joseph suggests self-questioning raises students' awareness of how they comprehend text and leads to independent reading and learning. So I've chosen to focus on TWAs, which stands for think, before reading, while reading, and after reading, and quality talk. So I'm using the gradual release of responsibility, since researchers, including Joseph and others, indicated that outcomes were more positive when methods incorporated a gradual release model of instruction. So some more reasons. The TWA uses a prompt that outlines the cognitive strategies to assist comprehension, and Rosenshine et al. Kind of said the best way to enhance comprehension is through the use of procedural prompts such as signal words and question stems. So if you see on the slide, there's the prompts are outlined there for the before, while, and after reading. I also found Lee et al. Suggest educators promote high levels of comprehension by incorporating multiple teaching strategies. So that's why I was incorporating the quality talk with the TWA. So the quality talk is about making an emotional connection with the text and considering prior knowledge and experiences and how they relate to the ideas presented in the text. And a big part of it is generating authentic questions. So it appears through my research that students need to be explicitly taught teacher-generated questions to engage cognitive strategies throughout the reading process, but also their own questions to promote high levels of thinking and learning. So much of the research I saw suggests modelling as an effective strategy for teaching cognition and metacognition. For example, Ye et al. State think alouds can increase metacognition and comprehension, so I'll be incorporating that into my work with the student. Palinska and Brown also suggest students who compose their own questions are more actively involved in the learning process. Just a couple of things that were worth noting through my research. A lot of it said that they were far more successful for literal than for inferential comprehension. And then one study even suggested that the multiple strategies approach was not more successful than a single approach with lower primary grades. So being that I'm using a year 3 student, it'll be interesting to see whether my approach of using the 2 strategies will have a significant impact on his inferencing comprehension and early evaluative comprehension.
Hi Travis, it's Brooke here. You talked about 2 strategies, the TWA and quality talk, you are using with your students. Do you think these methods would be suitable for students for different comprehension levels? What is your thinking around this?
Yeah, I do. I think from my research, it's suggested that the TWA approach was originally designed, I can't remember the exact text, but originally designed for struggling readers, but that it can also be effective for young readers. So I think that's a good approach from the literal to the inferential level reader. And then I think the quality talk strategy is designed more for the evaluative comprehension skills. I believe that it would be useful for my student to make a deeper connection to prior knowledge, as he's already making inferences. And for example, it might help out if we're doing character inferences based on their actions. You know, why did they use particular actions and that sort of thing. So I think it would just engage the student at a deeper level.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Both are appropriate.
Yeah, I think I might even have a look at more in depth into the quality of talk after you've just spoken about it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I found it interesting, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi Travis, it's Jo. So the TWA approach appears to be an authentic and top-down approach to reading. Do you believe a bottom-up approach to inferential reading comprehension would be equally effective?
I think in the early stages of my research, I found that comprehension strategies, say for example scaffolding from word level, then into say like cause and effect relationships between words and that sort of thing, like antonyms or synonyms, hot, cold, that sort of thing, through to like riddles where the inferential clues are fairly evident, then into more longer complex texts would work quite well. But I just felt that that research was kind of outside of the scope of my investigation, and that's why I'm not using it with my student, as it may impact the results of the study. But I do think it would be probably an equally effective strategy, and most of the research I've come across suggests that it is.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Travis.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm just going to flick through the references and then I'll turn off the recording. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for all the interesting ideas, guys.